I already love this project and I'm excited to share it with you. I'm going to be sculpting a weatherproof water feature for my garden. When we moved to this house, there was a large water feature in the middle of the pond. It really wasn't to our taste, so after a couple of years, I took it away. There's been quite a few years gone by, so now is the time for that to change, and I'm going to be putting in a new pond feature. I'm going to be sculpting all of this by hand. It's going to be fully weatherproof and it's going to withstand the full winter and the full summer through wind, shine and snow. And of course, I'll show you step by step my whole process. The first and important step of the process are the ideas and design. I wanted to incorporate some birds into my pond feature, and I loved the idea of free-flowing birds with the water fountain in the centre. I was imagining something like this mock-up that I made, but much larger. Something like this is definitely possible, but that would have needed a strong internal structure, likely made from welded steel. But I wanted to make the base structure from things I can easily find at home. So back to the drawing board, and the need for a structurally sound base structure and a sphere would be great for this. Once I decided on the actual design I was going to go for, it's time to mock something up, and I find it really much easier if I have a visual, something I can see. I have this exercise ball and I figured it was roughly the sort of right size that we want for the sphere. I quickly mocked up a bird shape so that I can also see how this looks. These are going to be much larger than this, but I can get an idea for how I want the wings to span over the sphere. A large piece of paper or card with your design drawn to full scale and added into the middle of something like this will also do the job. I'm really happy that I've gone with this kind of design, as I have a really solid structure to work on and for these birds to be attached to. So we're going to make it really strong, robust, sturdy, to be able to withstand anything. And yes, cardboard is our friend when it comes to starting this project. I've just had a new table delivered, so that was handy. Using my favourite method to draw a large circle, 2 pencils and a bit of string. So I'm starting off by making the giant sphere from the cardboard. I know it might seem strange making a pond feature from cardboard, but believe me, this really does work well. I decided to make it a little bit smaller too, and don't worry, that's part of the design process too. It's okay to change things as you go along. Once I've cut one out, I can use it as a template for the other 3, because I need 4 of these. This is me here just for inspiration, so these ideas can be adapted for bigger and smaller projects, and so many variations in design. On each of the 4 discs, I cut out some channels so that I was able to slot these together to make the sphere. Then hot glue holds everything firmly in place nice and quickly. I cut some semicircles out of the cardboard as well and glued these in place, as you can see here down the outsides. With corrugated cardboard, we're able to take advantage of the grooves and bend this into nice curves. Using these basic principles, you can design any shape you wish out of cardboard like this. I've added more hot glue to hold this in place, and I'm going to add some more sections of cardboard just to fill up that whole sphere. Yes, I could have used something like the exercise ball to start with, but these design processes just allow you to see you can design any shape you wish out of cardboard like this. Just for now, I've put my cardboard sphere to one side, and I made a paper template of the large wingspan of a bird to use this to also cut out of the cardboard. Another hopefully easy material to find is tin foil, and I scrunched this up to add to the cardboard with hot glue, making a 2-dimensional bird which will make into a 3-dimensional bird a little bit later. You may have seen this video where I made this garden sculpture, where I started off with the same method of card and foil. The results are fairly thin but super strong. If you want a simple first project, then I really recommend watching this if you haven't already. A material I didn't use in this vase is chicken wire. This garden feature is overall much larger, so I'm using the chicken wire for important added strength. When using chicken wire, it is best to wear gloves, as the wire can be pretty sharp. The 2D birds are covered in foil, and now the wire. The other bonus of adding wire is the fact that we can now bend our 2D shape into 3D. When designing something, always think of the whole process ahead How are things going to attach together and how is it all going to work? Here I'm adding some wire so I can easily attach the birds to the sphere later on in the project. Now it's time to scrunch up the foil to bulk out the 3D sculptures. Think of the foil as the sculpting medium. Little pads can be created like this by tucking all the foil in the inside, having that lovely scrunched effect on the outside, and then using it to press and to sculpt it all in place. Longer shapes can be scrunch rolled like this. Many different crafts can start in this way, and here on Red Rocking Bird I do a lot of air dry clay, and I use this method also with my air dry clay. More wire to give extra strength can also be added in. Here I'm adding it in for the tail. The same foil method I apply to the sphere. Don't forget, if you're just starting out, your piece does not have to be anywhere near as large as this, but you can use these same methods for sure. My videos here on YouTube are really just for inspiration and to really inspire you to be creative in any way you can be. The fantastic material I discovered for my face sculpture I'm going to be using again, and that is PalTiya Premium. PalTiya comes in powder form, so all we need to do is add water and mix together. While mixing, wear a mask. This video has been sponsored by PalTiya International. They've provided me with their sculpting medium, PalTiya Premium, for this project. The crew at PalTiya International are super passionate about giving any creative from any background the freedom to create on their own terms. They have a fantastic website, paltiya.com, with the step-by-step process of how to plan and use this medium to make pretty much anything your creative mind can dream of. The product cures rock hard with no firing or baking required, and it can be put outdoors in absolutely any weather. Perfect for my pond sculpture. Even better, their sister company, Create Ed, recently launched the Artful Sculptor, a jam-packed online course bringing together professional-level physical 3D sculpting techniques using many different mediums with creative coaching and personal transformation. It also includes 3 PalTiya Premium masterclasses. You can see that and other offerings by visiting their website and clicking on the courses in the menu. If you're ready to level up your sculpting skills, click the link below and explore PalTiya Premium. Thank you PalTiya for sponsoring this video. Now back into the project. Using 4 parts powder to 1 part water, mixing in small batches. Mixing together in an old clean ice cream tub, just with a table knife, all dedicated to the PalTiya now. It then comes together like a lovely clay which can just be kneaded lightly, and then it is simply ready to use. Really easy to mix up and make, and you don't want to make any more than you can use in an hour. If you want to add texture and details, it takes this on really well. So it's really clay-like and easy to use, but something that cures fully hard, that's perfect for my pond sculpture. If you have a go with this and you're doing it inside like me, make sure you cover all surfaces and you wear some old clothes. Gloves are also recommended so it doesn't dry out your hands and it protects them. If you have any comments and questions about any of this so far, please do ask in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you think or answer any of your questions as best as I can. Did you see the little fibres close up there? These help give this product its great strength. When creating a large piece like this, we create what we call a scratch coat first. It's a layer of PalTiya Premium that we can add these grooves and scratches in, a base coat that we can build on later, and that lets us really build and sculpt and create large sculptures out of this fantastic medium. In my face sculpture video, I talk about the process even more if you want to look at more detail, and also check out PalTiya's website. As the medium cures, we want to keep the moisture inside, so I wrap it up in a plastic bag. I do this with each part that I'm creating to make this whole piece, even when it's completely cured. This stage, the birds are starting to come to life, even though they're quite rustic, but I can imagine these floating around that lovely sphere that I'm going to have in the center of my pond. After 24 hours, the scratch coat is fully firmed, so I'm able to pick this up and really sculpt like it's clay and just really create and get those details on there that I really want. It's best to keep the scratch coat damp as it continues to cure, and you can dampen something like a towel like this and wrap up the scratch coat now that it's firm and it's not going to change shape. What would you choose to make for your home or garden? Please let me know in the comments below. PalTiya has a high natural strength. It has a cement base with no fiberglass or epoxy present in the product. After doing a bit more, I wrap it up to carry on the cure process. Moving on to making a strong base for the overall sculpture. I have a non-absorbent piece of packaging here that I've cut into a disc, and I'm going to cover this with the PalTiya so that this is going to form my base. Because this is a fountain, I then plan on having the water that runs centrally up through the sphere and comes out at the top. So I have a hole in this, and I'll create a cylinder that extends all the way up to the top. I've covered the whole sphere in tin foil, and here it is. I still have the square section in the top, so I need to cover this over a little bit more. I've also found a cardboard tube that I'm going to use. I feel I've got so far now, and the rest of the sculpting I feel needs to be done out here in situ, as this is going to get incredibly heavy. Always think about that when you're creating a piece like this. Can you move it? How are you going to move it? And think through the logistics. I've covered the cardboard tube in foil and chicken wire, just testing for size. This is where it will go when it's covered fully in the PalTiya. To give the sphere added strength, I also give this a coat of the chicken wire. Pieces smaller than this, like the face sculpture and smaller, don't need the chicken wire, you can go straight in with the PalTiya. Cut slits and bend the wire around each other, or you can use wire to hold it in place. The cylinder through the centre of the piece is going to give it some real strength, and also the place where I can easily thread my tube of water for the fountain. The cylinder is starting to cure, and I feel this is my first moment of truth. I have to get this standing in the middle so that I can single-handedly place the ball over the top. Am I going to manage it? I made another part of the PalTiya, and I'm going to sculpt this and blend this and make that central column really stay in place. Well, that's the plan. It's a lovely and warm sunny day, which really doesn't seem ideal when sculpting with this, and you really do need to keep the PalTiya nice and wet as it cures. But I'm working with it and hoping to do my very best. I have plenty on there, and it's feeling quite stable and amazing. It stands upright. Time to bring the sphere in and really get this to start taking amazing shape in the center of the pond here. I step out of the pond to look at it from all angles just to make sure I have it really central on that centerpiece. And there we are, it's official. I finally have the start of my sculpture in the center of my pond. Everything lines up really nicely, so I'm adding some hot glue, and then I add some foil on the top of this just so that it's all the same, and we can start adding the PalTiya to the sphere. Yes, it's all a little bit wobbly still at this stage, but I'm going to add some supports and it's going to become lovely and structurally stable. Just as before, I start adding the PalTiya in a nice thin coat that I'm going to then add some scratches in for the scratch coat. And as before, the easiest way to do this is with a fork. You get really nice deep grooves with this, just dedicate that fork to crafts. Then anytime you feel like taking a break, you can cover it in a plastic bag, adding the towel on here for weight, because at this stage I feel we need to give the base some extra support, so I made some tin foil feet. I've made 3 altogether and wedged these evenly in place around the base. I can then cover these in the PalTiya. I'm not going to do these in a scratch coat, I'm just going to cover the whole foot and then let them cure. You just let the moisture stay in and you let it cure. The total curing time for PalTiya is 28 days, and during that time you want to keep it nice and damp. But after that time your piece will be absolutely rock solid. So I've had the feet wrapped up, and now I want to carry on and do the whole sphere in a full scratch coat. Not forgetting that we need to add the birds in, and so that's what I can do at this stage. The wire and the chicken wire I'm going to connect together, really wrap around and bind these together to keep everything nice and secure in place so that I can carry on with the PalTiya. There are far easier designs and sculptures I could have created, But I like to give myself that little bit of a challenge, so let's see if I can hold these in place nice and securely. I wire the birds on and they're not going to be going anywhere, but the PalTiya is really going to add that added strength, that real much needed strength to hold these in place. I've smoothed out the underside of the birds as that's complete as it is, but the top side, which has more visual impact, that actually still has the scratch coat, and I'm going to be adding a different colour on top of this for the birds a little bit later in the video to finish those off. The first thing I wanted to do was add some PalTiya at the base of the birds and on the sphere, just to really hold them in place. Once I know they're structurally stable, I can move on and happily create the rest. I've added a bunched up piece of fabric under the tail just to hold it in place while the first part of it cures, adding the scratches into the material on the sphere. Iced water is a good tip for the hot days, and so I can use this instead of just the tap water. It's nice chilled water and it allows a little bit more work time when the weather is hot like this. I've moved to a bigger tub and a larger cup size, just mixing some more each time I mix a new batch, as I can get plenty on the sphere as I go around this. Then it's a case of pressing and working that in over a large area, adding the linear scratches and grooves in. And I'm really excited that this 3D structure is starting to come to life. PalTiya also doesn't have to be left just as it is, that same colour. You can actually add oxides to it as you mix and blend it. So I have some green oxide and some black here, and this is the first time I'm experimenting with this, so I'm really quite excited to see how it goes. I have a strong bag which I'm going to mix the colour in. This makes sure that you keep track of how much of the powder you have in. You want to make sure you don't put more than 5% in weight of any oxides, otherwise it could weaken the structure. I take note of my ratios so I can repeat this later on in the project. PalTiya can also be painted with something like an outdoor acrylic paint, if that's what you'd like to do afterwards, but with the oxides they're permanent, they're not going anywhere, they'll cure within the material and so they'll always remain that colour. Which I personally think is really fantastic and I'm looking forward to seeing the results. I'm happy to try this out now as it really has been many days since I began this project. It's already taking far longer than I thought it was, but that is what happens when you have a big project like this. I'm loving every step of it, I really am, and I love the fact that I can create this completely unique piece for my garden that absolutely nobody else will have. And look at this with the green oxide. How wonderful is that? It's amazing. A really rich, bright, vibrant colour. So I made a green and I made a green black. So the green black, it still has enough green in it so you can see, but it's just that bit darker. Spraying the scratch coat with a mist of water first is what we need to do. As I say, it's a very hot day here today, so I will need to keep repeating that. I've still got my mask on, I know. That was from I was just mixing it a moment ago, but you don't need to use the mask when actually sculpting with it. There's no particles loose and they're not going to get in your airways. I take a small piece of each colour, put them next to each other, blend them in, keep adding different bits of colour. There's no pattern, there's no rhyme or reason. Just get it on there and mix it, and then we'll hopefully have that nice slight variation of colour of the greens and a really beautiful stone-like looking effect. As with most crafts, I always say our hands are our best tools, so that's why I always sculpt with my hands, my thumbs, my full hand and my fingers. But if you'd prefer to use a knife to get in there and press everything and work with that and that works for you, then wonderful. But I always resort back to using my hands. The first 15 minutes of using the PalTiya, it's pretty soft, and then as you continue to use it, it starts to firm up, and we have about 2 hours to really sculpt and work with it. After the 2 hours, it really does go much firmer. Still sculptable, but much firmer. Then I think it's after about 24 hours, you'll need power tools if you want to make any more serious adjustments. You can take a break at any stage, always wrapping up, making sure the moisture stays inside and that PalTiya starts to form its crystals and starts that excellent curing process. What do we think of the green oxide in the PalTiya? I think it's going to be really pretty, I do. At this stage, after a few hours, I can add a mist of water and then take some sandpaper and sand out any imperfections or add in some details. I could have added a lot more detail and design into the birds, but I just wanted to keep them with that overall flowing shape. When sanding this, you can see the little fibres that are there, but not to worry, we can get rid of those by just using a flame, a torch over them, just a lighter, and really get rid of these little parts. So again, I'm adding some moisture, trying to keep this damp in the really hot sunshine, while I wrap it up and take a break once again. This is, after all, going to be a water fountain, so we wanted to check the pumps just to make sure they work fully and they're going to get that water up there through the centre of the pond feature. I actually had this tube, we just had changed our dishwasher, and this was the tube from the back there. I like to reuse and recycle, so I thought this would do just fine. Now that we know that's going to work, I take my time and add the final coat on top of the spear. I don't want it just to be a normal spear. I've been thinking for a while what sort of texture I'd like, and I've gone for a really organic circular design, as you'll see come to life right now. As I said, I love to use my hands, but a spoon is another really good tool that you can use with the PalTiya. So I'm going with these really organic shapes and really just enjoying the process. It's so satisfying to smooth and to get all this in place. And so if I have some sections around the edge that I'm not going to come back to for a while, I can add some scratch coat there, or most of the time I'm just keeping on going, adding some spray of water and then going in with my fresh PalTiya. I added some black oxides and just a tiny bit of the green into this colouring, just so that I had a different colour to the birds. It's nice to be able to add the shapes in roughly, and then after about an hour it does start to cure, it starts to set, and then you can smooth it out and use your fingers to really smooth in and press any of those extra details. At this stage it became a real labour of love, but luckily the family got stuck in and we all really enjoyed part of this process. And look at me, I got my chair out, I got in the pond and carried on. What kind of projects have you got yourself into and it's taken you far longer than you thought it would? All these things really do, but lots of fun in the process. I kept reusing the same pots, but every now and again you can just squeeze the sides and release any of the bits to dispose of. The black oxide is making it a deeper colour, and I really hope this shows when it's fully cured and fully dried right at the end. All these things I really enjoy experimenting with. As I said earlier, if you want a better breakdown of the different steps, then I'd check out the video on the face sculpture as I go through the steps in more detail on that video. We had some strange weather and the rain absolutely poured down and I wasn't quite ready for it, which created this strange texture, but I'm sure I can smooth it out again. So it is a bonus if you can try and do this indoors and not be affected by the weather while creating. Or a gazebo over the top should have been my other option. I decided that I was going to do the pipe removable, so how I'm going to do this, I've had some cling film over the top of the cured PalTiya and then created another top over that which attaches to the pipe inside. That way I can remove it if I need to. I've now come to the end of the sculpting of the PalTiya and around 20 days has gone by, so everything should now be lovely and solid. We have been on holiday for a little while and so I was a little bit nervous leaving it. All seems fine apart from the pond has gone very green. So I look forward to being able to filter this and fill the pond up to really get this working. But first of all, another soaking and then I can wrap it up for another few days. Everything isn't perfectly smooth, but I really do love that organic feel. And then we spotted a little friend in the pond. There were two in fact, one big one and a baby one. We put some rocks in so they could jump out, and then I had to actually order myself a new pond pump. So I've easily installed this onto the end of my pipe, and then for the moment of truth, Everything I've been waiting for, please. Yes, excellent. So I can adjust the force of the water and get this just right. So pleased to see that it works all fine. Just a few more finishing touches and then I think it's going to be really just as I wanted it to be. Any loose fibres can be burnt away. A small blowtorch would be much easier for this as I really was struggling with the wind and this lighter. And then for the birds, I want them to shine. They don't get the water on them, so I do want them to shine in the sunlight. I have some polyurethane varnish which I'm adding to the birds at this stage. I may varnish the whole sphere as well, but for now it's the birds that need that, and hopefully they will then look like real stone and it just gives them a bit of something extra and it really brings out the colour and all those greens. The pond can now get filled up. I bought myself a filter as well so that the pond can remain clean. And I absolutely love it, I really do. It's unique, it's different. Hopefully you've enjoyed the process all the way from the cardboard stage to this final piece. One reason I didn't make the birds too realistic was I wanted birds to come and enjoy this too. And I didn't have to wait too long until the birds came to enjoy the water fountain. Over here on Red Rocking Bird, I love to share my creative projects with you. Thank you for watching. See you in my next creative video.